everybody. Come on in, come on in. Thank you all so much for being here. For anybody new here, hi, I'm Maggie. Maggie, the substitute teacher. You all know me from my cooking channel. I make food and femininity content. However, in 2021, was it 2021? Oh my goodness. I booked a session with the late, great Kevin Samuels. It wasn't for me. I always like to say I am happily average. It was because I felt a burning conviction whenever he would say, "Where are the older women to teach the young?" Hello, Dr. Steele is in the house. Hello, Kijambu. Thank you so much for being here. But I do. I have a passion for the younger women, modern women, as a reformed modern woman. So I booked a session with him, and he was very generous in person. Yes, we missed the Godfather. And happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to the fathers, grandfathers, the Godfather. May he rest in peace. So I wanted to help and I wanted to give back. And so I requested his permission in that session to create a community where the older women could teach the young. And we did this privately in his Patreon for many, many months, years maybe. And then we moved to the mix and then now YouTube. And the Wives Club is where we teach as former wives, current wives, and future wives, because being a wife is a mindset. And I realized a lot of women didn't get that teaching if you didn't grow up in a traditional household. And some of us did and still got caught up in the modern woman mindset. So what I like to do come back in here with you all and share my reaction to his videos. This last one is, I have my notes here, you all. I missed it because I've been traveling, but I just watched it. I don't know what happened, you all. I'm so sorry. I got kicked off the internet, but hopefully we're here. Hello, Condemned. Vanessa says, "Happy Sunday. Always a pleasure to reach you and to see you. Very lovely, modest, kind, and beautiful." Yes, thank you all so much. I don't know what happened. Sorry about that. Hopefully we are cooking with gas now. But I think what I was just saying is that in 2021, I booked a session with the late, great Kevin Samuels. In that session, I asked for his permission to create this community. Not only did he give us his blessing, thank you, Dr. Steele. Not only did he give us his blessing, but he actually came up with the name, the Wives Club. So even though he is gone, his message still lives on. And what I like to do is come back here from time to time with you all and react to his content. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get right into it. I think that's what I was looking up for you all when it went out on me. So you don't get apology. You don't get an apology. you only get sign language. And you all know Kevin was the king of the acronyms. Sign language is shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right. All right. So I've got my notes here. So if you see me looking at my phone, I took a lot of clips. This one was about an hour and 40 minutes. I remember three distinct sections. So let's just go ahead and get into it. And again, thank you all so much for being here. All right. So the first note that I have here is Kevin was asking, can modern women admit that we are wrong? And, for me, this comes down to pride and ego. But ladies, I always say we have to ask ourselves, how easy or how difficult is it for you to say, you know what, I was wrong. You were right, I was wrong. We'll get to the apology in a moment, but ask yourself, when is the last time the evidence was presented and you were just on its face completely wrong and you admitted that? If that's a struggle for you, that's a problem. Because I just had a coaching session with a young woman and I told her, if you want to be a wife or you want to be in a relationship, especially with the caliber of all right, hopefully we're back. All right. So I was saying that in the type of relationship with the caliber. All right. Hopefully it'll stay still. We're going to get feedback all the time. And if that's a problem for you, you're going to have a difficult time maintaining a relationship because men, especially men that are on their purpose, are action oriented and they're going to get straight to the facts. And sometimes it's not going to come out in a way that feels so good. But we have to be able to say, you know what? I was wrong on that one. All right. Kevin also said in this episode that we don't understand how much our actions, or I'll say it, our lack of actions, impact the men that we love. He said that women say that we want men to share their emotions. No, we don't. Ladies, let's tell the truth. We want a masculine man who can just handle things, not us, but just handle things. But we have to understand that to men, and I've said this before, respect is more important than love. And I think Kevin said in this episode, respect is love to the kind of men that we want. So if you find yourself being disrespectful, and you may not think it's disrespectful, you may think, oh, I'm just asking questions, or I just like to debate, or I just like to get my points across, especially in the moment, that's going to show as discounting how your man feels. And especially if you're wrong on something and you don't admit it, then you're basically telling him your feelings don't matter. And, as a boy mom, this one really hits home to me. Please let me know if it's okay. As a boy mom, this one really hits home because we have to give our men the full human experience, meaning all of the emotions that we experience, ladies, men feel the same way. They feel joy and pain, hunger and thirst, tired. They feel happy and sad, afraid. They doubt themselves, everything. But we expect men to shoulder that burden and, never let them see you sweat. So if we, as the one that, we have said, I will be your helpmate, your support system, if we don't allow them to have those emotions, we're basically chopping off the human experience for them. And nobody is built to survive that long term. All right. So the other thing that Kevin said in this episode is that, ladies, you may not think about it this way, but when you become that kind of like robotic and you turn your emotions off, it's quite masculine. When we think about men, we think about doers, we think about action takers. Kevin said in this episode that men oppose the environment. Men are the ones that build, that, clear the bush, that, explore. They do all of that. We make things beautiful. We are the ones that are the emotional creatures, and that's not a bad thing. We just need to use our powers for good and not for evil. That is a very feminine quality. If you have a hard time expressing emotion, that's going to be unattractive to the type of men that we want. They want a soft place to fall. They want that comforting, nurturing spirit that Let's tell the truth. All of us like, even as women, we love when we are cared for. That is your role in the relationship. So if you think he's going to work hard and I'm going to work hard and, we're going to do this thing 50-50, then nobody's keeping the home fires burning and you just end up like roommates. And if you want to be business partners and have no affection there, I guess that's an option. But if you really want a loving relationship, ladies, that is our job. So if you need help with femininity, Lucy and I, of course, have a course, but you can just ask yourself some of these questions if it's hitting home. And I'm not talking about using our emotions as a weapon, crying at the drop of a hat, having emotional outbursts. We've all seen it, but just having that genuine, sincere, sweet spirit of a woman is very attractive to men. So Kevin has said, especially in this boss babe culture, this is what's happened to a lot of women, and I get it. I just talked to a woman who, when we have these big jobs, and believe me, I was one, big job, big everything. In order to be successful at work, you have to turn your emotions off. You have to be one of the boys, be just as hard, be competitive, oftentimes even be combative. That's what's required professionally, but that will hurt you personally. So ladies, you have a choice to make. If you can code switch and you can know when to turn things on or off, then you just have to be mindful about it. Okay, I'm talking to my man. I'm not talking to a peer or a colleague. If you're not good at that, then you have a choice to make. Either you're going to go the career path and chase it all the way to the sky's the limit. That's fine. But you may find yourself alone or not with a real fulfilling relationship. Or you can choose to prioritize marriage and family. And you may not have letters behind your name. You may not have big promotions and all of the trinkets and trips that, the boss babes brag about. But you will have a man that loves you and adores you and cares for you and provides for you. All right. So again, your choice, ladies, whatever you want to do. All right. So let's continue on. So Kevin was talking about how women don't know how to apologize now. And this one just really hit home for me, ladies. When is the last time that you have said, I'm sorry? I am so sorry that I hurt you, or whatever the offense was. If you cannot remember saying that, again, that's a problem in relationship with the caliber of men that we all want. Kevin spent a lot of time in this episode talking about how women basically tap dance around it. And I've heard it all, well, I apologize, or my bad, or you made me do it, and all these excuses that we come up with. And one of the things that he said that really struck me and I love is that when we say sorry, that is connected to a sorrow that we feel. We really should hurt if we have caused pain in somebody else. If you don't mind doing dirt to other people and you can just, go to sleep at night and it doesn't bother you, I think that's just karma and it will come back. I am not okay if I know that I've offended someone. I always try to make it right, admit my wrong, fall on my sword, whatever I have to do. But I have seen this. I have seen this with women who is just kind of like, they'll be all right. Well, you may win the battle, but you will ultimately lose the war because, like I say, men look at how we act and decide if they want to put up with that for the next 30 years, 50 years and beyond. So if living and working with you is just, it's always somebody else's fault, you never just take full ownership of messing up. I've done it. I've had to apologize and say, I am so sorry, I was wrong, and then follow up with never doing it again. And then what am I going to do? Put things in place to ensure that this never happens again. All right. It hurts, but Kevin said we will do this for our female friends. We work really hard, and men see this too, ladies. They see us move heaven and earth to make sure that we stay connected with our besties. But the man that is sworn to protect and provide for us, we kind of give him the scraps. We're like, yeah, you'll be all right. All right. So let's see. I want to make sure that you all can hear and can see. Says audio and video. Let me just check right here. All right, I see the camera And I see the audio too. So if we've got anybody shadow watching, please just let me know. Okay, good. The Condemned says, I stopped waiting for apologies when I learned those women intentionally did what they did and said what they said. That was disrespectful. Now I just leave those type of women. That is the closure. Thank you for saying that. And it's true. I've really had an eye-opening experience, and I'm not happy to say this, but I'm going to go on record and say it. In today's age, any moderately attractive woman who is single for a reason. And I'll go even further to say she knows that reason. Yet and still, she's going to double down and do whatever she wants to do. And that's fine. Just don't question why you are alone. I'm the ultimate optimist, and I always used to want the best for everybody and believe the stories that they would tell me. Oh, I didn't know, I didn't have a good example. And, I would bend over backwards to try and rescue women from themselves. And I learned a hard lesson. You had plenty of opportunity. You just fumbled the bag over and over again because of your own pride. And so now here we are, and not everything can be fixed. And I don't take any pride in saying that. This is not a clap bag. This is not me saying, yeah, take that, take that. It's not that at all. But like I told the woman that I counseled tonight, one day you will be my age. I'll be 50 at the end of the year. And you're making decisions now that will impact you. I listened to the sermon this morning, and the pastor said something about you are creating the stories that you are going to tell to your children. It was something like that, to paraphrase. So thank you, The Condemned. All right. So again, our job, ladies, it's not enough to just be there and look cute. If you want to be hired help, if you just want to be there temporarily, I guess that's okay. But if you want to have a real relationship, you're going to have to learn how to work with a man in the good times and the bads. And those apologies aren't going to cut it. You made me do it. Sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry if I hurt you. You all know. And again, if you haven't given a real apology because you actually felt sorrow, felt pain for that person because of something that you inflicted, something's broken there. Something's wrong there. You have your emotions shut off, and that's not good for you, and that's not good for the relationships that we ultimately want. But again, you all can do whatever you want to do. Nobody's going to fight you here, but I do hope to add a little bit of context and some color, and hopefully you can ask yourself and answer for yourself. So then Kevin started talking about how we got here. And, all of us are products of our environment. All of us have learned the behavior that we have. And unfortunately, and ladies, it's true, we have gotten away with so much, and dare I say, even too much. When we look at other cultures, in our community, women are basically allowed to do what they want, say what they want, wear what they want, act how they want. And who are you to check me, right? We've heard that foolishness. But there has to be a consequence, or we're just going to think we can do whatever we want to do. There haven't been consequences. I think it's starting now. Women are realizing, like The Condemned said, the men just aren't having it. If you have found yourself ghosted, if you have found yourself lonely and don't want to be, if you have found yourself starting over and over again, there's a reason for that. So if you have a man who's interested in you and he's giving you feedback, I would advise you to take that feedback, because just like I told the lady earlier that I was coaching, men only talk when they care. If they don't care, they stop talking. That's what happens when they check out. And like The Condemned says, you just leave those women alone. And I don't want you all to be left alone if you don't want to be left alone. All right. So listen to the feedback. But here's the key. If you don't like the consequence, don't do the behavior. That's really as simple as it is. I've had an experience where I've had to apologize profusely one time, and after that, never did it again. And you have to decide if you want to be right or if you want the relationship. And Kevin said that in this episode. But having those consequences and that structure in place, knowing that it could be a different way, knowing that the man that you love could walk out the door and never come back. For me, it's a healthy fear. It kind of keeps me on the straight and narrow. And I mean, I'm a rule follower anyway, but as women, as emotional creatures, sometimes we just get caught up in things and we're just like, well, I didn't know, I didn't see it that way. But when you have that structure in place, it's actually a safeguard, and you learn to love knowing that, okay, I can go up to this line, but other than that, I can't do it. If you don't want anybody to tell you what to do, then you really don't want a relationship. Like the young lady that I coached tonight, I said, you want to be married, but do you want to be a wife? And those are two very different things. Because when we work with our men, we're going to get feedback all the time. They're going to keep us on our toes. And I welcome it. Here's a piece of unsolicited advice. What I do is if my man ever gives me any feedback that he likes something, I do it again. I just anticipate that he liked it one time, he's going to like it again, because the men that we admire are successful because they're very consistent. So I don't wait for him to ask. I just go ahead and prepare the things that I know that he likes. Take one thing off of his plate so he doesn't have to worry about. Likewise, if he ever gives me any feedback like, don't do that, don't go there, don't work with that person, it's not even a conversation. I eliminate it immediately, because what's most important to me is the relationship that I have and keeping it going well and not having to restart something because I thought I could do whatever I wanted to do. All right. So Kevin talked about that, how we have conflict, it matters. And he said, if you haven't learned how to conflict with a man, you haven't learned how to be in a relationship with a man. And ladies, I'm not talking about this yelling at each other and arguing. That is not normal, healthy relationships. But as two adults, we're going to have difference of opinion. And sometimes you need to talk some things out. Can you do that in a civil way? What does Dr. Steele say? Some women think that marriage equates to slavery. Oh my goodness. Which involves submission, but it's not that type of submission. Thank you for saying that. How do we go from 0 to 60? I don't understand that, women. Why do we hear something and we just get so triggered, we just jump out the window? It's like, la, 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 la. I think Kevin said this before. Submission is just, I think he called it peaceful cooperation, or I happily submit. Because here's the thing, ladies, and thank you, Dr. Steele. You may not see it now, but I promise you, when you get older, don't believe me, ask the 40, 50, and 60-year-old women that are single in your family, in your neighborhood, in your neck of the woods, what they wouldn't do for a man who would come in and rescue them from themselves. But oftentimes the ship has sailed and it's too late. And that's what I see time and time again. Women spend years, decades doing whatever they want to do, however long they want to do it. And then you've built up this bad behavior that it's really hard for you to correct. And then a man comes in and says, no, we're not doing that. No, we're not going there. No, we're staying in. We're not going out tonight. And you just lose your mind because you don't know what it means to just be told no and say, okay. If you can't do that, then you're not ready for a relationship. All right. CSS says, I'm in shock to hear a Black lady say this. Well, welcome to the Wives Club. Hi, I'm Maggie. All right. So let's continue on. So we talked about how love is respect to men, and then men will speak until they don't. And that is probably, ladies, when it's too late. When he stops talking, it's because he has been saying it and you haven't been listening. So it's really disrespectful to a man to wait for him to get to level 10 before you're like, okay, no, now I'm serious. No, now tell me what you need me to do. Okay, yeah, I'll do it. Okay, I'll keep my mouth shut. Okay, yeah, I'll cook for you. Okay, yeah, I'll put some clothes on and look decent in public. It's too late. He said it. And I'm going to tell you, one of my biggest sponsors said, we don't even want to have to say it. We want you to be able to read the room and know and anticipate what he's going to like and not like. If he says it and you still disregard it, like my man will say, that's God's plan for your life, right? I jest, but it's really important, ladies, to listen. And don't play deaf, dumb, and mute like you didn't know, because men watch and they see how we are with our girlfriends. They see how we are with our bosses. They see how we are with our hobbies and all the things that we like. If we can get it together for all the fun stuff, then when it's time to act accordingly, we seem to not know how to get out of our own way. then, as they say, you're playing in my face, you're playing in his face, and that's disrespectful to a man. All right, so fix it before he shuts down, because it will come back. You don't get away with anything, ladies, and that's what you're seeing now. A lot of the older women, unfortunately, that are howling at the moon is they got away with so much bad behavior for so long, and now karma has come back, and they don't know how to fix it. And for a lot of them, it can't be fixed. All right. So if you haven't learned how to talk to a man, if you haven't learned how to work with a man, if you haven't learned how to conflict with a man, ladies, you're going to have to seek it out. And yes, I have a course, but if you don't, you don't have to do that. Look at the relationships that you do admire. Talk to the married women, the happily married women amongst you. Change your friend circle. Instead of hanging around ladies that are perpetually single, find the people that are quietly happy and observe, see what they do and see what they don't do, and see what you can learn and pick up from. That's what I do. And most importantly, listen to your man, because he's going to tell you. The men that we admire and respect, they don't lie because they don't have to. All right. So if you want to build with somebody, that's going to require conflict, but it can be a healthy conflict. All right. And ultimately, men are the ones that lead. I have a story that I want to tell, a little bit of story time. And this has been on my mind for a while, but we had something really unfortunate happen in my neighborhood. I live in a cul-de-sac. I live in a nice neighborhood. And everybody, all of my neighbors, we've all owned our homes for, I've been here 15 years. And my neighbors across the street, husband and wife, he's retired Air Force. They were there before I moved in. So, we've all been here for years. Well, there was another neighbor, a couple that got divorced, unfortunately. And when the man left, the woman couldn't keep the house. It's a big house. And so she ended up selling it. And a property management company bought the house. And they have been renting. Y'all know where this is going. And unfortunately, not always, but when people don't own something, they don't take very good care of it. That can apply to a lot of things, ladies, not only homes or vehicles, but relationships too. If you find yourself being the woman that's around for a short time and not for a long time, you're never going to get the type of treatment from a man that cherishes his wife, cherishes his woman of many, many years. So again, you got a decision to make. So the rental had, people coming in and out. We just tried to ignore it. But this latest incident was there were 3 pit bulls that the renters had in the house and that they let roam free, which is against common sense, good dog ownership. And y'all know how I feel about animals. I'm not an animal lover, yet and still I have a fenced backyard. In our county, if you have pets, they either have to be, on a leash if you're out, or in the backyard. This rental property has no backyard, and they would just open the door and let the dogs roam free. So my military neighbor and his wife, they're both older and retired. They like to work in their garden. Hello, Anthony. Thank you so much for being here. And she's got a little teacup poodle that's always up underneath her when she's working in the garden. And she came out of her garage, and the 3 pit bulls went after her and her dog, pinned her down in the garage. I was home. I was listening to an audiobook, and I just heard this screaming that I'll never forget. And I thought it was part of the audiobook, and then I took my AirPods out, and I heard the screaming, and I ran to the window to go see. So her husband, the retired Air Force man, he was on the side of the house with some potting soil. And of course, he came to rescue his wife. And so he got the dogs off of her, and she's screaming hysterically, and then the dogs turn on him. From the idiot renter, the dogs turn on him. And all I saw when I went to the window is him standing there with like a water bucket, or, something that you water plants with, and yelling and kind of beating back these dogs. And it was horrific to see. And so eventually the idiot neighbors came out and got their dogs. And Anthony, it's unfortunate, but this is the owners. So they came and got the dogs. The dogs even went into my neighbor's house, and it was just a whole commotion. So when it was all over, of course, called 911, animal control came and got the dogs, everything. And I went across the street to go sit with my neighbor. My man got upset with me because he was like, you need to stay safe. Can't help everybody. But he just said, can I have a chair? So he sat down in a chair and he had pants on, but he had huge gashes in his thigh, one close to the groin, in his ankle. He was all bit up. Had to have 16 stitches, antibiotics, shots for rabies. Exactly condemned. And you've been there. And I've just been thinking, and of course, they're going to sue and, all of that. We're having an emergency homeowners meeting. All of that is happening. But in that moment, her husband protected her. She got a few scratches and he took the brunt of it. But why do I tell this story? And I talked to my man and I was a mess too. He said, women don't realize this. When we claim you as our own, that means we are willing to die for you. That's why so many men delay if they take on a wife at all. And I think women, we have to really understand what men are willing to do for us, our men, not everybody. Nobody owes you, their life for yours. But when you are a wife or when someone has claimed you as their own, they're willing to send you off to safety while they face the danger. And in that moment, it doesn't matter how tall they are. It doesn't matter if they make six figures, what kind of car they drive, if they can take you on fancy trips. He's basically saving your life so that he can take the burden. So for a man that is willing to do that, why can't we just say, I'm sorry, I was wrong? Maybe you don't have a man who you look at as a hero, but I have a huge appreciation for men and what they're willing to do for their loved ones. And just a couple weeks ago, I saw it in living color and I'll never forget it. So, so many things have changed this year. I'm going to go back to Kevin's message, but if you have a good man, hold on and respect him and just know that in a split second, when we are emotional, they are our protectors, and you never want it to happen, but you're grateful that it does. All right. So Kevin was asking, what kind of woman are you, ladies? And again, you have to choose. You can't be everything to everybody. Either you want to, serve yourself and serve your career, that's fine. Or you want to serve your, husband and the family that you all create together. All right. If you don't know how to conflict with a man, Kevin said in this episode, that's where we get all these irreconcilable differences, because we don't know to have two differences of opinion and come back and say, all right, I understand, or I disagree, but, we're just going to go ahead and go your way. If you have that need to be right, you might find yourself needing to be alone. All right. All right. So let's continue on. So the kind of men that we want, I know Kevin was huge on the high value men, but the men that we admire and respect are very self-aware. And they will watch and observe and maybe take that disrespect. You're lucky if you get it one time. But if you find yourself only being around for the fun stuff and he never brings up anything that's a serious conversation, you're just going to be there temporarily, because men can't build, they can't trust their legacy with a woman who is erratic and emotional. All right. Kijambu says, Maggie, I've always been curious. Most men don't ask for much in relationships. The essentials we hope for, respect, love, support, and peace, are all free. And I believe women want those same things too. I think so too. I think at our core, I'm still very hopeful. I think at our core, women want that. But the modern woman programming, whether it's media, social media, bitter older single women in your ear, something has messed us up where we've overcomplicated relationships. But I agree with you. The best things in life are free. All right. So ask yourself, ladies, are you really cut out for a real relationship, or are you just here for the fun stuff? Excuse me, Kevin talked about that. Are you just here for the photo ops? Are you just here when it's time to put on a gown and look fancy, right? We have Real Bravado Network Through the Fire podcast with the $5. Thank you so much, saying just a reminder to continue to work, and I still support you. So good to see you here. Thank you so much. So yes, ladies, Real relationships require real work, but something about us thinks that relationships should always be fun. There's going to be lots of fun moments, like the lady that I just counseled earlier today. There's going to be lots of fun moments when he knows that you're genuine, when he knows that you will go through the rough times with him and not switch up when you get your way or pout when you don't get your way. All right. Men have a lot that they have to deal with in the world, and they don't want to have to handle us. So don't be that woman that he has to handle. Could he do it? Yes. Does he want to? No. And you may find yourself alone. All right. So your choice is to be right, or you could live with a man, because in relationship with a man, you're going to get feedback all the time, every day. Sometimes it's going to be good feedback. A lot of times it's going to be like, nah, you're not doing that, or you could do this better. So if that's going to make your knees buckle, if that's going to make you crumble and fold, you may have to really reconsider if you're built out for a relationship. Not everybody is. I learned that the hard way too. All right. So the next part of the episode, Kevin had a young woman. I think she was 26, and she was engaged to be married. She was engaged for 1 month and knew her fiance for 6 months. So one of these, lightning fast relationships. And they were saving up for a wedding because she wanted a wedding. They had just bought a house and, all this other frivolous stuff. But what struck me, we've seen her before. He asked her if she knew how to cooperate with a man. And she said, I don't like the word cooperate. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's going to go downhill from here, right? I don't like the word cooperate. She said cooperate sounds robotic. And Kevin told her she was childish and selfish. So think about it. What human throws a tantrum when they don't get what they want? What human falls out on the floor when we're told we need to go this way and they want to go the other way? What human is going to nag you incessantly until they get their way? Sounds like a child, right? So ladies, if you want to show up, there we go. Children, exactly. Dr. Steele says, what? Yeah, absolutely. I put the link in the description. You can watch it. It's about 40 minutes in. But yeah, she said, I don't like the word cooperate. It sounds robotic. Well, if you don't like the word cooperate, I don't know how to help that. But here's the problem, ladies. You got to be really careful talking slick, as they say, because I bet you when your boss says, hey, we have a team project, you know how to cooperate. When the tickets go on sale for that concert that you want and you got to, move things around to make it happen, you know how to cooperate. So you're playing deaf, dumb, and mute when your man asks you for something and you act like you don't know the English language. It's disrespectful, right? Thank you. Sponsored by Gen X as a child. You're exactly right. So he asks her the usual questions, do you want to have children? How many? How are you going to work with a man if you don't know how to cooperate? And she was like, well, we'll discuss and we'll figure things out together. I want to be a business owner. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want this wedding. And he told her, he said, you have a rebellious spirit. And I know those are harsh words. Dr. Steele says, what's so bad about the word cooperate? She said it just, I won't quote her exactly, but she felt like, so what happens if I don't cooperate? Is somebody going to hit me? And even asking a question like that, the attitude behind the question shows that she's not really trying to be a wife. And ladies, if nobody has told you, a wife is a helpmate, is a support system. That's why it's so important to choose wisely. The young lady that I was coaching before this, I told her, yes, it's going to be hard. She said, sometimes he just kind of says, hey, do this for me. And, inside she's kind of like, well, I didn't like the way that he said that. Okay, fine. You don't understand the nature of men. When they're in execute mode, when they're in action mode, they're very much to the point. But I said, this is when you remind yourself that you picked a good one. Anytime I coach women, I always ask them, is he husband material to you? Do you admire and respect him? And if the answer is yes, then it should be a joy to cooperate, to have someone alleviate you from always having to make the decisions, always having to come up with the answers, always having to, pick it, plan it, pay for it. If you want to be in the man in the relationship, that's an option too, but I don't think that we want that, right? So he told her she had a rebellious spirit. Men don't even want these big weddings, they do it for us, right? But okay, she admitted that she was spoiled rotten. She was the baby in the family. And Kevin said, a spoiled, rotten woman is good to nobody. So, ladies, you can wear your bad traits as a badge of honor if you want to, but it's not cute. It's not attractive. You know, if you say, yeah, I'm spoiled, rotten, or I know I got a mouth on me, or, you know, whatever things that people say kind of half jokingly, half like, no, this is who I am. Like I said in the beginning, every moderately attractive woman who is single for a reason. You're going to meet the right one, and he's going to tell you, yeah, that's not going to fly over here, and he's going to leave you to figure it out. And maybe you're okay with that. I only talk to the women that are prioritizing marriage and family in their prime. If you want to do your own thing, that this doesn't apply to you. So she said, I'm still trying to write my own page. You know, I want to be, he said, so you want to be a wife, you want to be a mother to 3 children, you want to be a business owner. He asked her what kind of business. She had no idea. She was just saying stuff, right? That's not okay, ladies, because the way men are, they're going to continue to ask because they really are asking to understand. Men don't just get to say things and have lip service, and people are like, yeah, that sounds okay. They've had to prove themselves, so they're going to expect us to do the same. Who do we have here? Lovely lady. She says, Maggie, I just wanted to thank you for everything. I followed your advice and recently met a good man. Oh, that warms my heart. Thank you so much for saying that. I'm just overjoyed. It will get better. It's probably going to get worse before it gets better, but that's my heart. You all know I have 2 boys, and one's graduated and going to the Marines, and another one coming up right behind him. And I do. I mean, I could live my simple cul-de-sac life, but I really feel like if you can help, you should help. And I won't be here forever, but thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it. Oh, let me know if I can share. You can inbox me if I can share. All right. The Condemned says, listening to that 26-year-old speak, she sounds inexperienced as to what the expectations are of herself as a wife. I think she said the man she was engaged to was 35, and it didn't sound like he vetted her. I would agree. They were only together for 6 months, and so it moved very quickly. And if you remember in that episode, Kevin asked her about her relationship experience. She didn't really have much relationship experience. She had situationship experience. And ladies, I'm going to tell you this again. I've said it before. You're not getting away with anything. And if you spend your prime years dating the type of men that let you get away with everything, let you wear what you want, do what you want, argue them down, disrespect them, spend money like crazy, you are building habits that when you do meet the right one and he tells you no, you're not going to know what to do with yourself. And it's going to be even harder for you to course correct. And for some women, it's too far gone. I was talking to my man earlier today, and he said, every woman should date a man. And I agree with this. Every woman should date a man that she can see as husband material. I mean, if you just want to have fun boys, then I guess that's where you'll stay. You can have shallow relationships, that's fine too. But if you ever want to be married, you need to date the kind of men that you see as husband material. That's what I teach ladies in the wife lessons. That's why you have to choose wisely, because there's no guarantee that this is going to work out. But at least if you give your best effort to the caliber of man that you admire and respect, if you do have to start over, you will bring those good traits and those good habits and those good practices with you. You will know what it means when he's like, yeah, I'm busy, I'll get back to you. You won't take it as an offense. You will understand that you're not always going to get your way. You will know what it means to be told no and not have a fit like a child. But if you are only dating the type of men that worship at your feet and tell you everything that you want to hear, and you're beautiful and you're a 10 and there's nothing wrong with you, you're going to walk out into this world and you're going to be humbled very, very publicly. And I don't want that for anyone. So he told her, he said, your page needs to be his page. So again, ladies, if you're in a relationship and you have a good man, of course, you can bring up the types of things that you want to do. Maybe you want to travel, maybe you want to go back to school, maybe you want to have a business, but you can't do it all at the same time. And you have to do it in a way that puts the relationship first. The only reason I'm here with you all on the internet is because the boys are pretty much up and out. I mean, you all know, Happy Father's Day. They live with their dad now that they're teenagers, amicably divorced. Like I told you, I'm a reformed modern woman. I thought that big job and that career mattered, but it doesn't. Now I'm lucky I have a second chance, at love again, and I'm very happy, but I was a mother first. I am a mother first. And so I had to do those things. There was a period of time I didn't know what was on TV. I didn't go out. I didn't do anything because you're in full on hands-on mommy mode. But that's not forever. So you will have time to do those other things. But if you want to try and force your way on your timeline, good luck with that. All right. So, again, if you are the spoiled one, if you have always been catered to, that's not something to brag about, because Kevin told this young woman, if a man ever told you no, you're the type that's going to make him pay for it. And ladies, you got to ask yourself, when a man tells you no, do you do the silent treatment? Do you pout? Are you passive aggressive? Do you start to do all of these things that show that you don't really know how to take correction or act in a way as a mature woman? So again, you can ask yourself, yeah, maybe you want to be married, but do you want to be a wife? Thank you. Hendrik says I had to get on my man's page and we're great now. I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you all for the confirmation, especially from the ladies. I created this space, and this is always a safe space for the women who do want to be in meaningful relationships. So when you all have good results, it's really a blessing to me for you to share. And like the young woman that I talked to earlier tonight, I told her, you've moved to another phase, because she's telling me, yeah, before I used to have this type of reaction, but I did what you said and things are better now. This is not about me being right or anything. Who am I? I'm just a mom on the internet. But once you start having your own data points, once you start seeing results for yourself, it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. I understand. So, I've told women before, one who messed it up royally, but if it's a struggle for you, write it down. I did this, or, I doubted him on this, but I didn't say anything, and I let him make the decisions, and it turned out fine, so that you have your own track record of success. So you don't always have to come to, Maggie's corner to get advice. I'll be here for as long as I'm here. But ultimately what I want is, the older women to teach the young women. But if the 50-year-olds can teach the 40-year-olds, and the 40-year-olds can teach the 30-year-olds, and the 30-year-olds can teach the 20-year-olds, and the 20-year-olds can teach the teenagers. That's how we turn this around, because it can't just be one person. Because what happens when I'm not here? We just go back to doing whatever we want to do. So I'm glad that you all are getting the message and pay it forward. We have Enchanted Adventures says, hi, I'm married to a good man, but I just found out he's been cheating on me since we've been married. I am staying in this marriage, but can you help me have a better mindset? Yeah, you have to have a conversation here. Kevin used to talk about this. What did he say? High value men don't cheat, they exercise options. So, without knowing the details, and if you want, when I get done with this, if you want to come on camera off, I'm happy to help. But ultimately, this is the thing, ladies, everybody's relationship is different. All right. The men that we admire and respect, they're just going to tell you what they're going to do and let you decide. Now, I'm not saying you should accept or not accept anything, but if he is a good man, then I'm wondering why you all didn't have this conversation in the beginning. And I know I only have your part of the story, but I don't know the circumstances, and it's really none of my business. But ultimately, ladies, we all have to know what our deal breakers are. And I'm just going to say it. Some people will put up with things that others won't. I know this about myself. Like, I know I would not be a good military wife, emergency surgeon, police officer, firefighter. I like to have access to my man. It would be difficult for me to be alone for long periods of time. Some women are totally fine with that. Some women are okay if a man has, extracurricular activities, as long as I don't hear about it, don't embarrass me. But that has to be a conversation between the two of you all. Somebody from the outside in can't come in and fix it. So I would just say, ultimately it's a decision that you have to make. And if it's a deal breaker, then you need to say that. And if it is a deal breaker, then you need to break the deal. If it's something that you cannot live with. But if you can put some parameters in place that only you two agree to, it's really nobody else's business. I'm not going to tell you, what I would or wouldn't do because that's irrelevant. But, I just say prioritize the relationship and have a conversation with him. All right. Hopefully that helps. He's high value and you just had a baby. Congratulations. So yeah, everything I said. Okay, yeah. I'll let me get through this and then I'll put a star by your name and then I'll drop the link and I will let you chat. But let me get through the rest of this. Thank you, Zoe and Gigi. Okay. Discipled one says, even though you're not with a relationship with a man, receive a no with grace. Men do and will be watching. If for no other reason, you may be the example of what to avoid. Yeah, not sure if I understood that, but it's true, ladies. Men always observe before they approach. And sometimes women feel invisible or they say, oh, nobody, the men that I like don't like me. They've watched you and they have studied how consistent you are and made the decision if it's even worth their time before they approach. All right. Yeah, Rodney says deal breakers are boundaries. You just have to decide what yours are. You're so welcome, sweetheart. I'm happy to help. All right, so let me get through the rest of this and then we will talk to Gigi. Okay, so Kevin was talking to this 26-year-old woman, basically saying you need to care about the marriage more than just what you want. She's planning for this big wedding, and that's fine. I understand that we want to celebrate, but, in my opinion, I don't know. It'd be second time around for me. I don't need any of that. I had the big church wedding. I did all that. I get it. She's 26. But ultimately what matters in the end is the relationship and the bond and the union that you have. You can have a big party anytime, all right? People do that. So she said it out of her mouth. I want what I want. Well, now we're clear, good luck with that. I think Kevin said that, he was speaking to her virtual man. He was like, do some premarital counseling and just be really sure about this one. Because, ladies, we have to understand the time period that we are in. So many men now are delaying if they're getting married at all. Kevin said it at the end of this episode, easy relationships are over. Men aren't just giving us the benefit of the doubt, or she seems like a nice girl, or she comes from a nice family and hitching their wagon to us. They're making us earn it. They're making us prove it because they have too much to risk if we decide one day we're not happy. And then what? All right. So I would say if you want marriage and you are with a man that is marriage minded, you focus on that. I would run like I stole something, have a simple ceremony and get to your family planning or whatever you all decide to do, and then have the party later. If you're not in a circumstance where you can, have the wedding of your dreams, that's just a day. What you want is forever, right? Rodney says, yes, we should all want longevity in our relationships. I couldn't agree more, because that's what's going to sustain you, especially when you get my age. You can look back and we all have times in the past where it's like, man, I wanted to throw in the towel then, but I'm so glad that I didn't. And I'm saying this as a divorced woman, I'm saying this as a divorcee. I'm not proud of that, but I am proud that I learned from it and I got in a relationship and I've been cooking with gas because I'm like, whatever we do, we're not going to do that again. All right. So we talked about the selfish women. It's hard to hear, but when I talk to the men, my man always says, yeah, Mother Nature has a plan for that. Women who are all about themselves, Kevin said, you will breed yourself out. So if you want to be remembered forever, you're going to have to work with a man, or it could just end with you. That's an option too. All right. So the next woman that called in after the 26-year-old was a 21-year-old. She was asking about racial differences and how it matters and all of this stuff. And come to find out, she's married but going through a divorce. I can't remember, but she was in her young 20s. I guess they were both cheating on each other again. Ladies, I'll just say this, and Lucy and I have a course that we're doing in July called Relationship Basics. Let me see, is it this one right here? No, that's the wife lessons. We have a course in July called Relationship Basics. You can go to teachablemomentswithmaggie.com if you're interested, but that's not what we do here. But I just want to tell you the purpose of dating is to determine if this is a suitable match for marriage or long term. So many women get this wrong because you're not having the real conversations. He is vetting you, and you should be vetting him. So many women are just happy to put on a dress and get a meal, and it's just like, I'm just so happy to be out. Don't I look beautiful? That doesn't matter if you're just going to repeat the process over and over again. So again, you need to understand, what is life going to be like, once we're together? What are my deal breakers? What are his deal breakers? What are my expectations of a husband? What are his expectations of a wife? You come in with a certain baseline, but after that, you have to, oh, thank you so much, Killis, for dropping the link. After that, you have to customize yourself to each other. All right. We can't just let the time fly by. All right, let me see what you all are saying in our chat. Hello, Killis, one of my moderators is here. Thank you so much for being here. What does this one say? Discipled one says, yeah, you can have the party later. Live that one. Eloped with my first wife and lasted for 25 years before she passed. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with it. At this point, ladies, relationships and marriages are becoming so scarce that I think if you have an opportunity, if you have a man in front of you who you admire and respect, and he is giving you his time and attention, you are a fool if you don't take it seriously. I talk to so many women and they have so much regret because all of them have somebody that was serious about them, but they weren't serious. And now that ship has sailed. All right. So back to the racial differences. You like who you like. You fall in love with who you fall in love with. I mean, you all know my story. The kids are biracial, but if you want to date outside of your race, here's the thing, ladies. You have to give that man a reason to overlook everything that is familiar to him and choose you. Is it doable? Absolutely. But what's not going to happen is, if you are struggling, if you are subpar, if you're difficult to work with, it's going to be difficult with the men in our community. It's going to be exponentially difficult with somebody who doesn't really know you. So, you like who you like, marry who you marry. But Kevin was basically answering her question that not only do you need to meet the standard, but you need to surpass the standard. And I would say this for any of men that we admire and respect: they have a baseline, what they're putting up with and what they're not going to put up with. And they'll just move on to somebody. Somebody will get on their program. I told y'all, I've had my feelings hurt. I remember, I don't know why I keep telling this story. I keep telling on myself, but I did it. I touched the stove. I was fishing for a compliment. My man and I were going out somewhere, driving to a show or a dinner or whatever. He's driving and I'm just so happy. And I look over at him in the driver's seat and I said, babe, what would your life be like without me? And without missing a beat, he was like, it'd be the same. Y'all, I still get chills when I say it. I was so hurt. I was so horrified. He was like, what? He was like, I hope it's you, but somebody's going to take me up on my offer. I don't know. What do you want me to say? Y'all, I was quiet for the rest of the ride. So my point is, men know what their benefits package is. They know what they have to offer, especially once they've built themselves. So they're not going to wait around for you to get it together and play these games, because they're just going to move on to somebody who knows how to fall in line. All right. Let's see what else y'all are saying. Gillis says, for me, I don't have anyone that I feel I missed out on. Okay. What I missed out on is being serious and intentional about looking for a serious man like you guys teach. I hear you. The sad thing and the scary thing to me is, and with a little bit of loving correction, I'm going to say something, Gillis. It is quite masculine for us as women, and I'll put myself in there, to think that relationships start when we say so. Relationships start when we find the man that checks all of our boxes of 34 things on our list. He's qualified once I have, investigated everything that I need to investigate. My point is this: oftentimes, men that could be wonderful husbands for us see how we move, see how we are with other men, see how we carry ourselves in public, see how we behave, and say, nah, It's not even worth it. So you may not have seen him, but he saw you. I don't know. I'm just making it up. But oftentimes, when women say, well, where are the good men? It's kind of in that vein. Well, I don't see them. Well, where are they? Believe me, they're here. We just don't have access to them. All right. Thank you for the love, sweetheart. All right. Kinjambu says top 5 traits to look for in a man: emotional maturity, integrity, consistency, respect, and shared values. It's not that hard. Anything else is just drama and stress, in my opinion. I understand. Disciple One says men have a baseline. You better preach, Maggie. Oh, thank you so much. Okay. So, date within your race, date outside of your race. Honestly, for me, you know, I always prefer, to help the community, the women that share my reflection. But this is a modern woman problem, like Kevin said, and it's really hurting us, nationwide. It's a Western world thing. All right. Kevin did say that we are hardwired to want what looks like us. And that's just biology. That's why I get so riled up about this like partner thing and 50-50 and we're equal. You all heard me say it. We're not equal. We're equally valued, but we are very, very different. We have a natural biology. If you believe in science, if you believe in anything, women and men are very different. And, one of the things that's important is that men want to live forever. If you study the nature of men, and they do that by having a legacy. And so it's very important to them who they partner with. Do you show up as a serious woman? Do you show up as someone who will bring honor to their name and raise children in a way that, glorifies all that they believe in? Or is it going to be about you? All right. Um, I was listening to, I think a pastor, somebody said, I can't remember, but as a father, and shout out to Father's Day, all the amazing fathers amongst us, once you have a son, and all men want a son, they just do. Once you have a son, you're basically training your replacement in this world. And when I heard that, I was like, that is amazing. It's not just something fun to do. It's not just a baby to carry, but all of the work, all of the toil, all of the failure, all of the stress, all of the knowledge that a man has gained in his lifetime, he wants to pass on that mantle to his heir. And so it's really serious, ladies. And if you don't think about family and legacy that way, that's fine. You can just date for fun, but you may find yourself disqualified from the type of men that you want. Gillis says, yes, completely understand. See, that's part of it. Not only looking for that serious man. I was one of those that has my head in the clouds, just floating around without a purpose and intention. Yeah, it's important. Thank you for being so honest, right? Rodney says, men like to move incognito, especially when it comes to women we like. That's true. Because ladies, we are the impulsive ones. We are the emotional ones. We see the dress and the shoes and the whatever, and we got to have it. Men aren't. They are very intentional. They're calculating. They think of all the possible outcomes, and then they make their decision. And all of that is going on in their head without you knowing it. And that's the other thing I was telling the young woman I was coaching tonight. She was like, I want to tell him about my day, but I'm the only one talking. He doesn't really talk about his day. And I said, and he may not. Men don't like to just be verbose for no reason. That's a very feminine trait. Again, we are different. Women, we bond through connection. We like to problem solve by talking it out and all of these things that we do. There's nothing wrong with that. Men love that part of us. Men are very different. They withdraw. They go into their own man cave, their head, and they think about things. And then once they make a decision, maybe they'll let you into the decision that they made. But again, if you don't understand the nature of men, you're going to find yourself thinking something's wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with them. Disciple One says, do you show up as a woman that brings honor to a man's name? Maggie, you shake every woman you see, so you get that. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's important. Every man is looking for his first lady. I know my man is. All right. So then, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. This is something that I struggle with too. Kevin was asking her, as a young woman without any children, why are you so overweight? I think she said she had gained like 70 pounds, which is significant. And you all know that's why I have the cooking channel, because I love to taste everything. Obviously, I have to work on it. But, this is a fear, ladies, and we have to talk about it. Men worry. Like I said, the pool of men, the funnel of men that are marriage minded is already shrinking. But men have a concern that they're going to give us what we want: the ring, the house, the family, the car, the whatever. And we're just going to do whatever we want to do, whether that's put on a lot of weight, whether that's disrespect him, whether, we are just unruly. And so that's why they take their time. Like Rodney said, men move in silence because they have to study us and know who is the real Maggie. Who are you when you're told no? Who are you when you get your way? Because they have so much to lose, and they're basically betting the farm on us. That's why so many men are walking away and saying, it's not worth it. It can be worth it, but ladies, that's where we have a lot of work to do. Yes, I admire Killis and for sharing her maturity. It's so welcomed here. Disciple one says, I wish every woman could hear Maggie 30 years ago. Yeah. Well, the internet is forever, and we have a couple ladies that have sprinkled in that what I've said has been helpful to them, and that's just a blessing to me. Such a blessing. All right. So, ladies, take it from Auntie Maggie. Keep your weight in check, okay? There's no excuse for this. There's nothing wrong with you. We just eat more than we need to. Figure it out and stay healthy, all right? That's something that I will be working on for the rest of my life. No excuses, no big bone, no thyroid problem. We can do better, all right? All right. So Kevin was also talking about, parenting styles and some of the excuses that we make. I've heard this one, he brings it out of me. It's not really me. Ladies, that's unacceptable. We are fully grown adults. You want to be these 50-50 partners. We'll take full responsibility for the decisions that you made and the bad behavior that you have. So as much as, we say, and Kevin has said, marriage is becoming harder and harder. I think there was a man that called in, and a lot of men are kind of turning away from it. They're kind of putting a broad brush on it and saying, marriage isn't worth it. And Kevin corrected him, and I'm glad that he said that. He said it's not marriage. It's not the institution of marriage. It's the women that we choose. And ladies, we've got a very, very limited window to get this right. Because once the men finally shut down and say, you know what? You can have it. I don't think that's a world that we want to be in. So every day we have an opportunity to give them a reason to continue to choose us. People have been getting married, having unions, whether formal or informal. People have been coupling up. That's human nature. That's how we were built. That's how we are hardwired to create family and legacy together. So if that's something that you want, be the kind of woman that is worthy of that. All right. Rodney says excuses don't build relationships. They tear them down. Absolutely. Excuse me. And it's not helping you either, ladies. The more excuses that you make for your bad behavior, then you get to a point where it's like, okay, no, I'm serious. I see it time and time again. Women get to their 40s, 50s, 60s, and they're, okay, no, I'll get on the program. I'll listen. It's too late by then. All right. So cut it with the excuses. Cut it with the you made me do it. If you've hurt someone and you know it, say, I am sorry. And make it right and never do it again. All right. That's on us, ladies. We are the emotional ones in the relationship. That is our job, to keep the home fires burning. Men build the structure. They bring the structure. They build, they create, they make sure that we are safe, right? We are the ones that keep the love alive. All right. So you can do that. And if you struggle, if you don't have any warm blood flowing through your veins, if you're ice cold, that is a problem. And you're not going to attract the kind of men that you want. All right. So Kevin talked to the young man about don't even think about marriage until 35. So, for young women who want to be married, you may have to look older. My ex-husband was 7 years older than me. You all know my story, but young men need to prove themselves because unfortunately, modern women are not going to hitch their wagon to a dream. We want to see it. We want to be able to say, okay, I see where you're going now. I'll get on board. And it takes men time. And just think of it this way. We know there's a whole slew of men that you don't want. You call them dusty and all these things. Okay, that's fine. But for the select men that you do want, have they not earned your respect just by becoming the men that they are? I think men are amazing. I couldn't do what they do. And so I lead with that respect. That's something simple and free that you can do. All right. Excuses don't build, but accountability will remove them. Absolutely. All right. So ask yourself, ladies, do you find it easy to apologize when you're wrong? And if you're going to sit here and say, I'm never wrong, okay, have it your way, Burger King. I mean, that's an option too. But show a genuine appreciation for your men. It goes so far. And like the man said who called in, be specific. Let them know, I see you working hard. I see you putting up with so much, little sleep. managing multiple things. Everybody's pulling on you. I don't know how you do it. I'm so proud of you. I admire you so much. Men need to hear it, especially from their woman. And if they don't hear it from you and they start to hear it from somebody else, we know where that can go. All right. So start being nice. This woman who called in, she talked about how she had to get out of the doghouse. But I think we've covered everything. If your man is talking, listen, ladies. He said, when men are talking, hush up. He didn't say, but men don't waste their words. So if you're given feedback, it really is a gift. See what you can do to improve. And again, even if this is not the relationship, you've built skills that are transferable for the next relationship, as opposed to just getting away with everything. Having these dysfunctional and broken relationships, you think everything has to be a shouting match. You think you gotta, become unruly and cause a scene just to get attention. You don't know how to just have a simple conversation and disagree. But okay, well, have it your way. It's no big deal. Sure, there's nothing wrong with that. All right, so let's see. Yeah, that was everything. So, ladies, we expect that good treatment. We know how we want it. So, we should at least be able to deliver on what we're asking for. I'm going to drop the link. We had a question from Gigi. It's been a while since I've done this. Let me see. All right. So I'm going to drop the link. Gigi, if you want to come up, you can click the link and you can be camera off. We'll see how it works on vertical. But yes, Kevin ended by saying, this is a good time to be a man. I know a lot of men are, I don't speak for men because I don't think I have a place to, but I know a lot of men find it difficult. But the men that have options, this is a great time for them. And I think the men are starting to rise up and say, you know what, for years, you've kicked us in the teeth and told us, we were useless to you. Okay. Like Mr. President says, I'm going to help you mean what you say. Meaning, be very careful what you wish for, ladies. All right. I see someone has clicked the link. Okay, you just got to connect your mic and you can keep your camera off. But yeah, let me see if there's anything else that I missed. Gigi, if you're still with us, I know you had a question. Thank you all so much for liking. Condemn says it's a great time to be a man. There are opportunities everywhere. And that's true, ladies. I'm telling you, especially in this modern dating world, the type of men that we want, they have so many options. So you have to be ready when he's ready. Again, like I was lovingly telling Gillis before, if we think, okay, now I've seen him, now I'm going to start, doing all the things, it's too late. It's too late because they've already been observing us. And it's an insult to them to kind of turn on a dime and say, okay, now I'm ready, take me seriously. So you have to really decide what kind of woman you are and what kind of relationship that you want to have. All right, so I'm just going to paste the link on Instagram. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to. Oh, my jet lag is still on me. I'm wide awake. And then I'll post it on TikTok too. So I'll give it a few more minutes and give you all some announcements. And then we will wrap up if Gigi is not here. So yes, I like to come on for you all whenever the Kevin Samuels channel has new content. It's usually the first Friday of the month, unless I'm, traveling or gone. This one was you get no apologies. You only get sign language. And sign language was Kevin's acronym for shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right. And that need to be right, that last one, was what we do that holds us back from being honest and genuine and apologizing. Don't be shy. Yeah, I don't see anybody in the back. So I'll go ahead and wrap it up. Let's see. So I know Killis had dropped the link. So again, the Relationship Basics course It's 2 sessions. You can go to teachablemomentswithmaggie.com. If you don't know what it means to study your man and anticipate his needs, if you weren't raised to be a good woman to a good man, if you're just kind of flailing and finding yourself starting over and over and you're trying to figure this thing out, Lucy and I have a crash course to get you on track. And we're going to teach that starting July 19th. All right. Disciple One says, thank you for all that you do. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And I will see you all on the next one. I'm Maggie, the substitute teacher. And I think I'll do some cooking content tomorrow. So we'll see. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And sorry for the technical difficulties. Sometimes it happens. All right, everybody. Let me go ahead and say goodnight.